Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. My name is Angelique and today we're going to be talking January reading wrap up. I'm also going to be filling you in on some of my writing updates because as you guys may know, I am jumping into draft 2 of my debut novel, which is an adult fantasy. I spent all of 2025 writing the first draft and I'm probably going to spend all of 2026 editing it to get it query ready, which of course I will be documenting with you guys. I went over my Q1 goals for the first quarter of the year, and at the end of this video I'm going to tell you where I'm at and if I'm hitting those goals. But let's get started with the video. We have our warm bevy and I got a little bit of extra hot water here. In case you're curious, this is peppermint tea with honey, which is my go-to. It's my favorite. So if you guys watched my TBR jar picks my January reads, you will see that I picked 5 books to potentially read for the month of January. I already forewarned you that I probably wasn't going to get to read all 5, but I wanted to pick 5 of them because I want options. I'm not going to be hard on myself this year. I think reading an average of 3 books a month with the writing that I'm doing and also working is like very realistic for me, but I kind of like to mood read. So I'm going to make sure I have more options than I'll probably get to each month, just so that in case I'm not feeling a romance or I'm not feeling a fantasy, I have some other options peppered in there. So I did read 3 of those 5 books. The books that I read were A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, Happy Place by Emily Henry, which was my first ever Emily Henry read. And the last book I read was Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, and I am super excited to go into all of my thoughts on these books. Actually, before we get started, I have to share my sweater with you guys. I went on a trip to San Francisco to see some friends in January and to see my husband's side of the family, and we went thrifting. Can you see me? Am I in focus? We went thrifting and I fell in love with this wool sweater. Look at it. Like, are you kidding? It's my dream sweater. The buttons are hearts. Look at this collar. Look at the sleeves. The detailing on this is crazy. The second I saw it, I was like, I'm buying it and I'm wearing it in the next video that I make. Okay, so the first book that I read was A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I did read this one on a mixture of Kindle and audiobook. I highly recommend the audiobook for this because this story is a fantasy that is inspired by the Scottish culture and is set in a place that is inspired by Scotland. And the audiobook actress did an incredible job with her Scottish accent. It made me feel so much more immersed in like that old world, otherworldly fantasy vibe that you always want to get from a book. I just really recommended it. I don't know, I personally really liked that because I don't think I would have gotten that immersed in the vibes of the fantasy setting if I was just reading it all the way through on my own. So I did think that this book was going to be close to a 5-star read for me, which it wasn't quite, but I still really, really loved it. Rebecca Ross has such amazing writing. Her voice, her prose is so lyrical, and that is my cup of tea. I love lyrical prose. I love a more character-driven story, which this one is. A bit of a breakdown for the synopsis is this should I say Scottish? I don't know if he's Scottish, but this boy was living on a mainland, separated from an island that is across this river, where he grew up and where his family lives. And there are 2 clans that live on this island, and the clans hate each other. They're nemesis. They don't get along. They raid, they pillage, they murder. He is at school on the mainland, but he gets summoned back to his clan, and so he has to find someone who can take him safely across this enchanted river where he gets to the mainland, and a lot goes down. It has a little bit of romance and enemies to lovers, and he finds out the truth about his clan, the history of the people that he grew up with, and there's a little bit of a mystery when they get on the mainland, which I wasn't expecting so much of like a mystery to be involved in this story because I can be a little bit hit or miss with mystery. I can sometimes feel so out of the loop and I don't like that. Even if I'm believing wrong, I like to feel like I know what's going on, and I don't like to be questioning if I know what's going on throughout an entire story, which typically that's the place you're in for a mystery. You're just like, who did it? Was it this one? I think it's her. No, I think it's her. No, I think it's, and you're just kind of on the outs. And I don't know. I like to feel like I believe I know and then like pull the rug from under me a little bit, but it didn't get in the way of my experience. I still really, really enjoyed the book. It had so many amazing fantastical elements with the world building and the magical system, which I really liked a lot. And honestly, so much of the magic system reminded me of the book that I'm writing, the magic system that I'm developing, which is elemental magic. And for that reason, I kind of think this book could be a comp for me when I query agents. I don't know. I'm just keeping that in the back of my mind because some of the things I was reading, like you would think that I was inspired by this book, which is good for me because comps are so hard to find. So all in all, I really enjoyed A River Enchanted. I think I gave it like 4.25 stars. This book does have a sequel, so I'll probably be reading that at some point. And I also have Divine Rivals, that duology by her, so I can't wait to get to those books now. The next book I read in January was Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was my first ever Emily Henry read. I have so many of her books and I've never taken the plunge. I did a 24-hour reading challenge, which I think I am gonna do again this month, but I'm probably gonna do it a little differently. Just as a little side note, I'll tell you how. I saw a creator that I cannot remember who it was. It was a creator I'd never seen before. I gotta look up her name. It's gonna bug me. Okay, I think I found her. I think I was watching Freya Valerio's content and she did a reading vlog where she mentioned she wanted to do it a little bit differently because I am not gonna stay up all night to read for 24 hours. It's not happening. Not that serious. She wanted to do the same thing. So she, instead of reading for 24 hours straight, she set her timer for 12 hours one day of reading nonstop, and then sleep, and then you set your timer for 12 hours again the next day. So you're literally reading for 24 hours and you still get to sleep. Loved that. I'm gonna be doing that this month for sure. It's a good way to get through that TBR. Anyway, that was a side note. Why did I even say that? Oh yeah, because in my 24-hour reading challenge, you'll see that I went from A River Enchanted and then I was really craving something more casual and contemporary after that because I've been reading so much fantasy. So I was drawn to Happy Place and I'm glad that I picked it up. Her writing, Emily Henry, is so funny. Her humor, it lands. She does a great job with quirkiness. She does such a good job with wittiness. I'm not the quickest when it comes to banter. You should see me trying to write conversations. I'm literally sitting there like, I don't know, maybe he says, "It's nice to meet you." Like, it's not a natural for me. I'm great with description and dialogue comes slower to me. That woman writes dialogue so good. And I was genuinely having moments of laughing out loud at some of the responses, some of the inside jokes that form and the way they come back around. Her writing is just so relatable when it comes to everyday life things, but in a way that's like meme worthy. After reading something like A River Enchanted, which is so lyrical, that was a really nice contrast for me and I really enjoyed that. Her and Ashley Poston have a little bit of similar style to me. Ashley Poston, I guess, is a little bit less witty and Emily Henry has a little bit less magical realism, but something about their vibes gives me the same feeling. So basically that's what I was able to say in my 24-hour reading vlog, and then I ran out of time before I could really finish the book. So now I'll talk more about plot because I didn't know exactly how I would end up feeling about the plot, and unfortunately this is where things didn't work as much for me. When I say the plot, I think that what fell short for me, and this is gonna sound insane because it's literally a romance, was the amount of time together they had. Wynn was the guy, I think Harriet was the main character. They were just together constantly. Now, what I did really like is that the book had, I don't know if it's called like dual timelines or multi-timeline, but it would go back and forth between present day and like the past, because essentially the book starts off where they're not together anymore and they, you know, go over the past when they were together and how they got to this moment and why this forced proximity in this week of spending 24 hours with their group of friends. And it just kind of sets up the tension really well. So I really liked that, but I never got an opportunity to miss their dynamic. I never got an opportunity, at least for me, not enough yearning. It was a lot of professing of interiority of the love that Harriet had for Wynn, and it was just so much of it back to back to back. I wanted a break from them so that it could be more special when they were together, which sounds impossible because it's a romance and it's literally a forced proximity romance. So of course, there's gonna be a lot of professing, there's gonna be a lot of togetherness, but I needed more independence. I think in my mind, when I think of a really like 5-star romance, I think of Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I feel like she balanced out very well their time together in that book and their time apart, which made you long more. And I guess I need more longing. And then again, Just for the Summer had deeper themes. And for me, the first 2 acts of Happy Place, we were just not really touching on things that had more depth, in my opinion. I like commentary about the world or other things that you're working through as a person, and it felt a little shallow, which is necessary sometimes. It's fun. It's a quick read and it's a fun escape. It wasn't like I wasn't enjoying it. It just felt a little too shallow for me until the 3rd act. Another thing that wasn't working for me was Win, the love interest. He was so self-deprecating and so insecure. It gave me the ick. There was not enough strength coming from him. Like, I'm fine with a male having to work through things and having insecurities and needing to be supported. That's beautiful, that's important, that's human, that's necessary. He just was being wimpy. He wasn't taking initiative. He wasn't fighting for his woman. And I was just like, that's a red flag. Like, I don't like that. Is he gonna fight for you enough in life? Is he gonna be caught up in his insecurities too much to see you? I don't know. So I wasn't really at that point rooting for them. I know this is kind of controversial. I have a friend, hi Sarah, I'm sure you're watching. And it was like a 5-star read for her and I trust her. Like, we have similar book tastes. So I don't know, maybe it's a me thing. I know a lot of people love Emily Henry and I will continue to read Emily Henry, but that just was not landing for me. Now, the thing that I loved the most was when we got to the 3rd act, it started to get a little bit more deep when it comes to themes around like work-life balance, and that really spoke to me. And there was a part where they answered some of why Win was feeling so insecure and some of his backstory, and then I kind of felt like a bad person for feeling that way toward him, but he never was redeemed for me after that. What I loved so much about the 3rd act especially was that the female main character worked at a hospital, so when she was talking about work-life balance, I work at a hospital, I felt it. I was like, preach, preach, preach. It can feel soul sucking. That just like got me really into it. Like, I was locked in the whole 3rd act. So overall, I enjoyed it. I will be reading more Emily Henry. I just have a feeling that's not gonna be my favorite one of hers because of the immaturity of the main characters. I guessed a good amount of the plot twists. I like the diversity in the friend group and the found family a lot. I love her humor, her witty writing, and I loved how just contemporary everything felt. So that book was kind of sitting at a 3.25 stars for me. Oops, and I forgot to show it. I did read that one entirely with the physical copy. I think I would have been able to read it much faster if I was able to find an audiobook, but I wasn't able to. Lastly, the last book I read in January was Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Before I talk about the inside of the book, this is such a floppy book. I love it. Oh my God, look at that. I think this is my favorite kind of physical book to read. I usually like hardcovers, but this one, the spine is just so flexible. It wasn't creasing. It didn't feel like I was using every muscle in my wrist to keep it open. Weird side note, but I really adored this copy that I have. So anyway, I read Red Queen. I really liked Red Queen. I'm so confused about some people who were saying they found it to be boring and slow. I thought that this was so fast-paced, and it does not surprise me that she has a background in screenwriting because I was watching this book. It is so plot-driven, and I'm a character-driven girly. I love a slower, lyrical, character-driven book that deals with a lot of interiority, which I wouldn't say this book dealt with a lot of interiority. There was some I would have liked a little bit more, but the plot made up for it so much. I felt like every act had a finale going on. Like, I genuinely was like, how can this get bigger? How is this gonna get bigger? The fact that this was Victoria Aveyard's debut blows me away. I think she said, don't quote me, I think she was like 23 or something when it was published, which means she was writing this even younger. This is so juicy. There's so much deep political commentary if you read critically in this book, and it's terrifying how it mirrors life in America today. This dystopian book drew so many parallels to our reality that is unsettling. I really liked the love triangle in this. It wasn't blatant. It wasn't in your face, especially because it has to do with two brothers. I didn't feel a sense of doing it just for the edge. It was such a slow build into a love triangle, and the twists were amazing. There's so many incredible scenes. There were so many characters. They all felt real to me. And I would just highly recommend this. Now, I will also say, as someone who read the Powerless series, that goes beyond inspiration, for sure. It's distracting how identical a lot of scenes are, and not even scenes, but sentences, like lines, quotes. When I read the Powerless series, I didn't know it was inspired by this, otherwise I would have read this first. Now I know, and it's just so blatant. Like, it's not even like maybe... If memory serves, it's throughout the entire Powerless series that she drew from this one book. There were so many beats that, to me, some of them were in the third book of the Powerless series, a lot in the first book, some of them were in the second book, and I was just like, jaw to the ground how many deja vu moments I was having. I am just blown away by Victoria Aveyard's imagination to come up with something so clever and fun and fast-paced and unique so young. Like, this is, I don't know, I really, really enjoyed it. Sometimes I can get in my head about YA, like I can feel like they're going to be too young. I didn't feel like this was written for children necessarily. This book doesn't shy away from violence. It doesn't shy away from the gruesome nature of oppression. I wouldn't say there was much spice at all, but there's definitely a lot of yearning. I don't know, something about reading this made me start to question the genre of my book, because I was like, this is YA? I was like, maybe technically what I am writing is YA, but I don't think it is, because there's a lot more spice. There is a spicy scene in my book, and there is also a lot of violence and gruesome scenes. So I don't know, I was just kind of surprised at the depth of this YA, because sometimes I think YA and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so young. I didn't have that experience. So I gave this book a 4.25 stars. Highly recommend it. I will definitely be continuing the series. So that wraps up all of the books that I have read for this month. I really had a great reading month, I think. I will be posting a TBR jar picks my February reads video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But now I want to get into my writing updates. So if you keep up with my videos, I did post a Q1 writing goals video of all of the things that I want to achieve from January to March. It's crazy that January is already over. That's insane. Mainly the things I wanted to focus on for January was rereading my manuscript twice. The first time I wanted to make very light notes, and then I wanted to read the alpha readers notes that I have from last year, compile my own notes from Google Docs, which there are 16 pages of notes for my book. And then I would reread it the second time and make heavier notes. That went along with a new outline that I would have to make sure that I have a structure of the changes I need to be made that reference all of the notes I've gotten from alpha readers and all of the notes I left myself before I start writing. And that would set me up for going into February to start actually making the changes. So that was the plan. What did I actually do? So I did a lot of it, okay? I was thrown off a little bit of my schedule. I have a writing friend, Macy, who wanted me to read her manuscript and give her some beta reader notes. So because that was added on top of the reading goals that I had, reading my own manuscript, and then adding in, which I wanted to read my manuscript twice, which would have basically been like reading 5 books. So with that thrown in, I only did read my manuscript once in January, and I'm currently in the middle of the second read now, a couple of days into February, so I'm only a little bit behind. But I was able to do that, make very light notes, and experience it as a reader for the first time. Like, you guys don't understand. I spent a year of my life, my blood, sweat, and tears, writing this first draft, and I hadn't read it. I had to force myself to not go back and reread and to just make notes on the side of what I wanted to change, because I knew I'd get stuck in an editing cycle and not continue moving forward in my writing. That was a decision that I made very early on, and it meant that when I finished the book, because it took me a year, that I would be reading writing that was a year old when I started reading it. And that's a crazy experience, because now I'm reading it and half of me is going, wow, I would write this so differently now. I see my growth in just a year's time. Like, I'm itching to say that the way I want to say it now, especially now that the book is fully formed in my head, because when I started, I thought it was fully formed, but it evolved. So I want to take that into account now in a way that I couldn't the first time. And then the other half of me is like, oh my God, I forgot about that. I'm impressed by that scene. I wrote that. So there's this like dichotomy of experiences and emotions when reading it. And I wanted to give that to myself before editing it. So yeah, I got to read it and experience it and see things that I wrote that I forgot about and see things that I wrote that I wish I could forget about. But that was great for me. And it's hard for me to feel proud of myself. I'm a perfectionist and I err on the side of caution. I rather down talk my abilities than oversell every time, which is a flaw. But I actually left reading my first draft of my first book with pride. So that's exciting. Now, like I said, I'm in the middle of the second read through and I am now making that outline. So I'm just a little bit behind, but once I finish everything I wanted to for Q1, it doesn't really matter how. It's just a matter of like within the next couple of months, just do everything you gotta do. Paired with reading my friend's book and paired with going on that trip to California, I'm so proud of my goals. I'm right there and I am getting in the mindset now to actually start putting pen to paper again, because after a break for the holidays, I feel like a newbie all over again. Like I'm like, how did I ever start writing this? How did I ever get into it the first time? And it's so true when they say, as an author, it doesn't ever get easier. You don't ever feel more like a pro. It's like every time you start reading, every time you start editing, it's like you're doing it for the first time. It's like, how did I ever do this? There was intimidation when writing the first draft of all of the blank pages ahead of me. And now there's intimidation with all of the full pages ahead of me. So we're going through this for the first time together. You're learning as I'm learning, and I'm excited to share my journey with you guys. But that's where I'm at in terms of my reading and my writing. I'm gonna do more work today. Here is the manuscript, the work in progress. I am currently on chapter 2 of my second read through and an outline is in progress. I have all of this to read and make an outline for before I start writing again this month. So I have to hop to it. So on that note, I am gonna go get back to work. I wanna thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you so much for supporting. Leave a comment, let me know what you read in January and what you plan to read in February. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love to have you part of the family. Make sure you hit the bell so that you get notified when I post. And I will see you guys in the next video.